Hey there, this is the One Boom, and welcome to more Battlefield 6 content. In this video, we're going to be talking about whether or not you should buy the game and my overall impressions and review of the game. As a longtime Battlefield player who actually was playing more Battlefield than I was Call of Duty back when I was a kid, and considered Battlefield Bad Company 2, 3, and 4 to be the pinnacle of all shooters, and I was very excited looking at the reveal of Battlefield 6 because it looked like more of a return to form. So I was very excited going into this game's beta, had a pretty good time, and then I really haven't talked about it much because I've been focusing on Black Ops 7 because I'm also a COD fan. I've been playing both COD and Battlefield since I was about 8 years old, and it is something that is just a part of my personality over the last 20 years. So as a longtime Battlefield fan, what do I think of Battlefield 6? Well, first, let me get something out of the way so we can actually get into talking about this game on its own. While Call of Duty could be mentioned in passing, Call of Duty is not a part of this conversation. This is a different game, tailored to a different type of person. If you're not going to play COD, you're not going to play COD. Battlefield's not going to steal you from COD if you weren't going to play COD anyway. And if you're like me and you have a Battlefield itch and a Call of Duty itch because you like both franchises, this will scratch the Battlefield itch, but it won't scratch the COD itch, and I know that feeling all too well, and it's best to just embrace the fact that you're an FPS nerd and want to play multiple types of games. Engaging in the flame wars is exactly what EA wants. EA has always done this weird scorched earth dude bro marketing about how their competition is lame and gay and their game is real war, and somehow it works on the easily impressionable youth of today, and of 10 years ago, and of 10 years before that. I have such little patience for dude bro console war my game better bullshit, and honestly, this game, Battlefield 6, deserves better than that. It deserves to be looked at on its own merit. Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 1, and Modern Warfare 3 back in the day were iconic classic shooters, even though Bad Company 2 and Battlefield 3 existed during their life cycles. Crazy how that works. And Halo Reach and Halo 3 were also amazing. Crazy how that works, right? If we go off of sales numbers, then every Call of Duty's been better than every Battlefield pretty much, right? And we all know that's not the case. So, let's keep our heads level and talk about general stability, bugs, quality, etc. So just so you know, I am playing on Xbox Series X, so this is going to be more of a review tailored towards people playing on current generation of consoles, whereas most of what I'm going to say is relative to the entire game. There is some console-specific stuff here because it's more convenient for me to just play on my console before I can upgrade my computer, which is just not something that's a financial priority for me because I do just enjoy playing on my Xbox. Anyway, for a launch Battlefield game, the general stability is not bad at all. And in terms of frame rate and quality, there is a pretty good balance being struck here. There's a lot of things that explode and fall apart, 64-player servers, larger maps, a good amount of detail, and you know what? The game runs at a pretty nice frame rate. When you're playing in performance mode, especially with, I would say, the sharpening all the way turned down, because if you have that sharpening up where the game defaults it at, oh my god, it looks very ugly. But turning the sharpening all the way down and playing on performance mode, the game is a very smooth, almost very soft appearance, but more importantly, it's a stable experience, and I don't really have any complaints about frame rate issues. No aggressive stuttering or lag dips or anything like that. Frame rate feels high, feels consistent, and feels well optimized, and I'm pretty validated in saying this because I've been seeing people talking about getting solid 60 FPS performance on GTX 1070 cards. This game is actually fairly well optimized, and luckily that extends to the Xbox Series X. So PS5 and PS5 Pro, outside of any console-specific bugs that might be occurring, honestly, it's running pretty well. In terms of any sort of bugs, I would say the only bug I'm having in the game that's very, very frustrating is just everything UI related. Selecting a spawn on the spawn map, like the overall, just pick where you spawn map, like the icon flickers around and bounces around for some reason, don't know why. Selecting things in the menu and then changing the setting immediately deselects it, you have to reselect it in the menu. I've had issues equipping attachments or changing parts of my loadout. The user interface is where pretty much all of my bugs and glitches are happening. When I'm in the game, the worst I will say is that you have that frostbite issue where some geometry on the map just isn't correct in some way. And you'll go to stand on a box or something and your character will just start sliding off of it, or you'll go to run through a little trench or ditch or crater and your character will just get stuck on a twig or something that's in there, or you'll just get caught on the corner of a wall, or you'll go to shoot and there's an invisible wall or barrier where there was a destructible environment. And that's unfortunately the frostbite engine. That's the Frostbite engine stuff we've been dealing with forever. I hate this engine, honestly, for competitive shooters, and I know that, the Frostbite engine is so tied to the Battlefield identity, but, it's very disheartening seeing some of the same issues I saw all the way back in, like, Battlefield 3 happening in this game, like, 13 years later. But I haven't seen any game-breaking bugs, just the normal Frostbite stuff we've been dealing with for a long time. Frostbite is not a competitive engine for competitive games. Like, there's a lot of issues with the engine in terms of hit detection and models and geometry and collision that just have really never been addressed. You have to look at it as more of a sandbox-style engine than a competitive engine. This perfectly segues into my next section here, which is settings, controller feel, movement, and aiming. The settings menu is one of the worst experiences I think I have ever had playing a video game. You expected me to say AAA game, modern game? No, video game. If it is a piece of interactive software, this is the worst settings menu I have ever used. Not just in terms of bugs and stability in the menus, just who laid this out? Who sorted these things? Who put these settings where? You had to decide, DICE, you had to decide where, like, the aiming dead zone setting is compared to the sensitivity setting. How did you fuck this up this badly? Let me say something without an ounce of hyperbole. Okay? I'm not being hyperbolic at all here. I genuinely think that the funniest aspect of people saying that Battlefield could kill Call of Duty is that when you load up this game and try to change your sensitivity, you're greeted with some of the most egregiously bad UI and menu setting placements ever. And I genuinely think people would rather go play COD just so that they can change their sensitivity, their response curve, their aim assist type, whatever, and then keep playing. This is egregiously bad, overly complicated, unsorted, unfinished. I could literally see this turning players away. Like, you're trying to, like, encapsulate a new audience, right? I'll talk about this more later, but this game feels like a reboot for the franchise, and you're trying to target the sort of casual audience and grab them and bring them in. I feel like one of the reasons I survive in this game, even when I'm not playing well, because I'm not good at the game yet, let's be honest, is just because people don't know how to change their settings. They're used to Call of Duty or other games that have better controller support, and they're in here just fucking fighting for their lives. Now, once you tame this beast of a settings menu, and you've watched 7 tutorials on YouTube on how to change the settings, the controller feel is fairly good after you're done tightening all that in. It still will nag in the back of your mind that maybe one of the sliders should be a little bit to the left or a decimal to the right, and maybe that's why I'm missing my shots, is my controller's not perfect, but once you do have it dialed in, it is not bad. And when it comes to movement and aiming, I actually really like the movement in this game. It's a little clunkier, it's weighted, it's a lot better than it was in the beta in my opinion, because it's not trying to get Warzone or Fortnite people in, it's not trying to appeal to COD players, which I appreciate a lot. When people play Call of Duty this year, there's going to be omni movement and wall jumping, and it's going to be hectic, and in this game your character has weight and momentum. Yeah, you can still slide cancel around the map, but you're not going to be winning gunfights with it, you shouldn't be using it for gunfights. Jumping in a gunfight, moving in a gunfight is discouraged. Now, it's probably too discouraged, and I would say that bloom and recoil and everything might be a little bit too high. Weapons don't feel controllable enough. Sometimes it's hard to believe that you're playing as an actual trained soldier with how just poor your weapon handling is with certain guns. But a lot of this, unfortunately, and you might not want to hear this, will come down to practice. Getting used to the aiming and shooting is actually more going to come down to you than any patches from DICE, because this game isn't broken because you can't aim and shoot and move in the way you want to. It's because you need to practice a lot of things I talk about in a video that I made. It'll be linked at the end of this one. Go ahead and click on it. It's going to give you a lot of aiming tips and techniques. It's not just settings, it's also just how you have to play with the sort of stop and pop technique that people had to use back in like Battlefield 3 and 4, and you might not be used to coming from Battlefield 1, 5, or 2042. Going into content at launch, there are tons of weapons and tons of unlocks and gadgets and things, and they're all locked behind a pretty grindy progression system that should keep you occupied throughout the entire cycle of this game's existence. I have seen a lot of Call of Duty tourists coming into Battlefield 6 complaining that challenges are too hard or weapon leveling is too slow, And I think it's because a lot of them want to get as much done as possible before November 14th. And I think they're struggling to realize that this game is going to be like a 3-year Battlefield game. So this progression has to last you throughout the life cycle of the game, on top of new content they're going to be adding. And there's going to be double XP weekends, and there's going to be things that speed it up. And I do kind of hope they give you maybe some extra progression per kill, or maybe make some of the more egregious challenges more obtainable for the average person. But this game is going to be around for a while, and I can tell by the challenges and the progression, the way it's laid out, that they want this to be a dedicated part of your library and not just a fickle annual game. So stop talking about it like it's supposed to be fickle and annual. It's not. It's not supposed to have you unlock everything before the next COD comes out. It's supposed to be something that lasts you like 24 months minimum. So strap in, Buttercup. Moving forward with that, the maps. I don't mind the maps so far. There's not really a map that stands out to me though. The overall variety between each map is notable in some cases, but others, I don't know. There's nothing really at launch here that excites me. I kind of wish we would have gotten a full-on expansion pack, sort of like Strike at Kirkland for Battlefield 3 back in the day, where you just get like a bunch of old Battlefield maps. I think that would have been great. Unfortunately, all we have is Firestorm, but I feel like if they were going for nostalgia, it'd been really cool to have like Kirkland and Firestorm and Caspian Border and Metro like all at launch, and that's kind of missing here. Honestly, the post-launch content better be good, because the launch content is feeling pretty lackluster. There aren't any really interesting launch maps either. There's no maps that take place at night. There's nothing like a Davaman Peak from Battlefield 3 that has like a crazy gimmick. There's no big Levolution maps with like, I don't know, like Langkang Dam, or like the flooded map from Battlefield 4. I forget what it's called, probably flooded. You know, there's nothing about the game specifically that feels like a big spectacle launch in terms of maps. So if you're looking forward to that, I'm sorry. In terms of gimmicks and new game feel, this game is sort of lacking here. Battlefield 1 could rest on the fact that it was the prettiest Battlefield game we'd ever seen, and very like immersively set up and historically accurate, and it had that as its gimmick. Its existence was a gimmick as a World War I shooter. And like Battlefield 5 introduced stuff like, you know, being able to tuck and roll when you land after a fall. That was a cool feature. You could build fortifications, and we hadn't been able to do that before. You could like place barbed wire and sandbags and turret placements and shit, and that was actually really cool for making the game feel more like securing and controlling positions other than just sort of running around a sandbox. And as much as I don't like 2042's specialist system, it had specialists that had their own stuff like wingsuits and grappling hooks and shit. And this game doesn't really have any of that. Even things I don't like that would have made the game feel like it has its own gimmick isn't really here. Like, yeah, you can drag your teammate out of combat while you're reviving them, and that's cool, but there's nothing about the vehicle play or gunplay or gun customization or map design that feels new or fun. There isn't like a Levolution gimmick or anything. Like, I feel like Battlefield used to do like a, hey, only in Battlefield thing, right? But honestly, only in Battlefield marketing kind of just comes down to like, oh, you can shoot a helicopter with an RPG. And it's like, that's awesome, but I don't know. Levolution back in Battlefield 4 was an only in Battlefield thing. Like, I hate that now we're on like a whole different generation of consoles. I mean, Battlefield 4 was running on the Xbox 360. And now here on the Xbox Series X, PS5s, PS5 Pros, much more beefy computers, we don't really have anything that tops like Levolution or the jump from Davaman Peak, or any like cool night maps or night modes or anything. Like an actual good NVG mode would have been a great addition to Battlefield, and I think a lot of like Milsim guys would have appreciated that have been looking forward to a grounded Battlefield experience, and it's just not here, and I'm out of breath from talking too fast. This is generally the most disappointing part of this review for me, is just how new this game feels. Like it's like a reboot to the franchise, but how not new it feels if you really look at the mechanics and gimmicks present. They're not really there. Even the destruction sort of feels half-baked in my opinion, because you blow something up and it just all crumbles, and the rubble doesn't really seem to damage players or anything, and the spectacle of that, of like collapsing a building, I mean, it's not gonna last. I mean, people know the finals exist, people played Bad Company 2, people watched the main skyscraper on Siege of Shanghai collapse into the fucking water back in 2013, so like, I don't feel like it's a big deal that you can knock over an apartment building in this game. If anything, it just makes the maps harder to navigate over time and kind of makes the game feel more boring as it removes verticality from maps that are otherwise very boring without that verticality. I don't know. It's just not something that, this game really prevails at. This game is really banking on vibes in order to sell itself, but it's not as vibey as Battlefield 1, it's not as sandboxy as Battlefield 4, it's not even as destruction focused as Bad Company was. Which is weird because like the entire marketing of this game is just look at all the shit you can blow up. Like the theme of this game is modern combat with explosions, and it doesn't really feel like it's ever fully realized as an actual gimmick. But moving into my next segment here, and probably the most important one, the battlefieldiness. Classes, vehicles, turrets, destruction, sandbox, and large-scale combat. Is that present here? Yes, it feels like Battlefield. Like whether you want to lay out in the hills in a ghillie suit with a sniper, control a tow rocket turret or a 50 caliber heavy machine gun to defend your position, drive a tank, drive a jeep, drive a four-wheeler, drive a jet, drive a helicopter. I think that's not called driving, but I don't care. That is here in spades. I feel like since Battlefield Hardline, Battlefield hasn't had that battlefieldiness that I have been sort of craving. Like even like Battlefield 5 and 1, which did a lot of things right in my opinion, and even 2042 that did some things right, just wasn't getting that. And there is something about this game, like there's some secret sauce, some weird proprietary seasoning they put in this game that does actually make it feel Battlefieldy. There is something about it. You have that wider scale combat, you have that vehicle play, you have that counter play, you have turrets you can operate. Like I spent so much of a match on Firestorm just controlling a tow missile turret, and it felt like Christmas morning. And I feel like I haven't had that in a while. This game does lack gimmicks, but in terms of general sandbox and what you want to do and how you want to play and having that sort of open meta gameplay that Battlefield's known for, it actually kinda nails. I will be able to talk more about this as I unlock different gadgets for classes, which with this game's grinding system, it's gonna take a minute, but as I unlock things, I'll be able to make videos about the gadgets and counterplay and battlefieldiness, and that's how I have it written in my script here. It's called battlefieldiness, and this game does have it. I do want to point out that there's a lot of people saying that if you don't like that experience, you should buy it for CQB, and I disagree entirely. Especially if you're on controller, because the game will just never feel as snappy as other Twitch shooters. But no, do not buy this game to play domination and TDM. That's where you go to chill out. That's where you go to level up a gun you're not really confident with. That's where you go when conquest is something you don't want to do without a teammate. Like, do not buy this game for TDM. I'm sorry. This is going to be one of the few mentions of Call of Duty I have to throw in here. That's what COD does well. COD does domination, hardpoint, King of the Hill, TDM, like that's a COD thing. These maps are not built around competitive 8v8 combat. The hit detection and gunplay, the general controller feel, it's not built for it. The smaller maps lack gimmicks and intrigue just as well as the rest of the game, unfortunately, in some ways, and so yeah, no, this is not a game you're going to enjoy long term if you're playing TDM. So, I don't know, this is like the Titanfall experience all over again. People are like, oh, if you're scared of the Titans, just play pilot versus pilot. Do not buy the mech fighting game to not play with any of the mechs. You'll have a limited experience, it's not gonna feel good, and I genuinely think other shooters just do that better. Hot take, hottest take I'll throw in this video. You are better off loading up Modern Warfare 1, 2, or 3 from the last 6 years and playing TDM in those games than you are buying this game at full price just to play TDM. Like if you didn't play Infinity Ward's Modern Warfare 2019 or Modern Warfare 2 or Sledgehammer's Modern Warfare 3, hop in those if you want that experience. You'll have better progression, you'll have way more variety, you'll have maps that are actually designed for that style of combat, and you will actually have a good time. I do not believe that Battlefield was built around these modes, and I won't listen to anybody that does. I'm sorry. I'm drawing a really hard line in the sand here. Battlefield is not an arena Twitch shooter. It's just not. And if you're buying the game for that experience, you are literally missing out on 80% of what makes this franchise great, and I have to shit on that. So, moving forward. Spectacle, cinematics, scale, and wow factor. So, this game, like I said, is missing Levolution. It's missing that sort of new game feel, gimmicky, like, this game has behemoths, this game has Levolution, this game has, constructible environments or specialists. But what we do have here is spectacle. We do have a cinematic wow factor game that can sometimes just surprise you with how good it looks, and it's not scripted. It's real players doing real things, and the game ends up feeling like a movie sometimes. That is there. In terms of scale, it's not as good as I'd like, but it's definitely gonna make you feel small, and I do like that. What I mean by that is that I think that some maps in this game, because of towering mountains or towering construction sites or buildings, literally make you feel like a tiny piece of a puzzle, and that scale is really something. Now, the wow factor isn't really there for me. There isn't really a ton of stuff in this game I haven't seen a million other times, and there isn't really a lot of stuff in this game that I'm gonna, post on Twitter and be like, this isn't a game, this is a movie. Yes, it'll surprise you sometimes, but it is still Battlefield AAA video game, and we don't have a lot of the things that made us drop our jaws in Battlefield 3 and 4 and Bad Company when that came out on the 360 that blew people away. I don't think it really has that wow factor, but it definitely will surprise you, and it definitely has its spectacle. And I think more importantly than spectacle or cinematics, the vibes are there. The grounded military vibes on top of a sort of goofy, fun sandbox. You feel tactical, but you also feel like you're in a sort of low stress environment, and I actually really like that. The people that say oh, I'll get real PTSD from this, it's so realistic, it's not like a game at all, ignore all of that. It's a AAA shooter, it's Battlefield. Some of you guys show your tourism by saying this kind of shit, you've never seen a game with a large map and a destructible building before. Please. Anyway, now 22 minutes into this, let me give you my overall opinion. Battlefield 6 is a strong foundation that's currently a little undercooked and rough around the edges. Doing certain things like selecting something in a menu or choosing where to spawn needs to be worked out. And that's fine, I'm willing to put my eggs in the dice will patch this basket. When it comes to content though, I'm not willing to put my eggs in the community maps or portal creation basket. And I didn't buy this game for the story or upcoming Battle Royale mode. I bought this game for a classic Battlefield experience, Conquest, Rush, Breakthrough. And of course, a rough launch is a part of that classic Battlefield experience. But really, large-scale, high-spectacle combat with open sandbox that's maintained through a tactical aesthetic and grounded vibe is generally what's provided here 100% of the time, and is absolutely worth your time to experience it if that's what you're craving. If you're not interested in perks and kill streaks and meta loadouts and competitiveness, if you're not interested in bright colors, wall jumping, character shooters that have different abilities like Marvel Rivals, Valorant, Overwatch, if you don't want any of that, and you want to just grab an M4, load onto a map that makes you feel tiny, and be just absolutely scared shitless by an M1 Abrams, yeah, this is exactly something you should experience. I won't understand people comparing this to Call of Duty directly, or the people you see turning their HUD off and walking around gawking at explosions like we've never seen a AAA shooter before, or a Frostbite game for that matter. And I worry that a lot of productive criticism is going to be drowned out by this touristy hype and COD hate, and it might take the better part of a year to get serious progress towards fixing underlying issues the game does have, as well as adding meaningful content that will change up the battlefield and change up how we play and make the game feel fresh season after season. I have seen EA and DICE countless times rest on a solid, profitable launch and go radio silent while they rake in the money from their scorched earth marketing campaigns until their player numbers do their inevitable fall that they do every title, and then they start pumping out content right at the end of the game's life cycle that probably could have saved it from being, I don't know, left in the dirt to begin with. It's great that Battlefield 6 has a lot of players. It's great that Battlefield 6 is doing well sales-wise. I could also see a headline in the coming months that says Battlefield has lost 80% of its player base. What happened? Because I've seen it before. I've seen it with every AAA shooter, and I've seen with Battlefield a lot. Even games that did really well and had a ton of marketing hype and a lot of great PR about them didn't maintain their player base and implemented massive gameplay changes way too late in the life cycle. And I worry that's going to happen here Because when you tell a development studio and a publisher, you have my money no matter what, fuck the competition, fuck the other guys, we're the best, they don't really feel the need to prioritize expenses they don't need to make. The example for this year is that I think Treyarch and Activision are working very hard to maintain Call of Duty fans this year and make sure that Call of Duty fans don't peek over the fence and spend more dedicated time on their title than the opposition's title. And that's a great thing for competition, but I don't see EA and DICE doing the same thing, and we've seen them fall into this trap countless times before. The saddest aspect of this game, and this is where this review gets very personal here at the end, the saddest part of this game for me personally is it doesn't feel like it's building off of what Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, and Battlefield 4 was building towards. I don't think Hardline, BF1, Battlefield 5, 2042, I don't think they're bad video games no one should play, but they didn't speak to me personally and keep me invested personally because, I don't know, they all felt like a reboot of the series. They all felt like a part of the series that was insecure about itself, trying to grab a different audience of people. Hardline wanted a type of player, 1 wanted a type of player, 5 wanted a type of player, 2042 wanted a type of player. It's like they were preaching to different choirs, talking to different communities, different types of people with each title. And after all of these years, even with Battlefield 6 being as fun as it can be, I'm still waiting for my true Battlefield 4 sequel. So when I say Battlefield 6 is a strong foundation, I don't just mean for the rest of this game's life cycle, I mean for the rest of this franchise. I'm hoping that Battlefield 6 is the start of them building off of their previous title, instead of just marketing the next one to a different group of people. Time will of course tell, and I hope that the initial success of this game translates to long-term success so that EA and DICE maybe feel more confident making this the foundation for the future of the franchise, instead of resetting and marketing the next game to a whole different demographic of people that didn't care about this one. Anyway, let me know what you think down in the comment section below about Battlefield 6. Have you been enjoying it? Do you hate it? Do you love it? What are your top 5 good things, top 5 bad things? Let me know down below, and I will see you when I see you. Goodbye.